Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. Chase Rice once dreamed of playing in the NFL in front of thousands of fans. Today, he's selling out those same stadiums as one of the hottest stars in country music. It's been quite a journey for Chase. From college football standout to NASCAR pit crew member to reality show TV star on Survivor. He's done it all. But he found his true love and passion as a singer and songwriter, penning hits like the Diamond certified single Cruise, and topping the charts with songs like Eyes on You and Drinking Beer, Talking God, Amen. But there's a whole lot of Chase's story that you don't know. In our conversation today, he opens up about his struggle with depression, finding his voice through his music, and never settling. His latest single, If I Were Rock and Roll, is out now. And next up for Chase, he's joining Kane Brown's Blessed and Free tour set for early 2022. This one's a fun one. Here's my conversation with country music star Chase Rice. Chase, what a treat to have you on. You know, you've had a lot of different journeys in your life, to put it mildly, and we're going to talk about all of them: football, NASCAR, reality TV, obviously country music. Chase, I know you had aspirations of playing in the NFL, and then you had a pretty bad, pretty grueling ankle injury, rehab, all that goes with it. Did that sort of help you step back from the game a little bit and take you maybe where you are now? I know that's maybe when you picked up the guitar for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a huge part of my life. I do remember playing football with my brothers and my dad in the yard, but it wasn't really realistic till probably high school when I realized I could actually do this and possibly get a scholarship. So when I got a scholarship to Carolina, that was awesome. In my mind, that's when you're in high school and you're pretty naive to what life is really like. But I had dreams of playing in the NFL and I thought I could do it. To me, it was a no-brainer. It was happening. And then I get to Carolina and work my way up the depth chart. And junior year was Butch Davis was our new head coach and Chuck Pagano was our defensive coordinator. And I was playing the best football that I've ever played in my life. And that was a lot because of I was finally there ready to do it. And the coaches brought the best out in me. And then, I snapped my peroneal tendon in my ankle. And second quarter of the first game against James Madison, we were already up big, like by 28 points or something. And that was just wrecking. It was tough. I remember crying in the locker room. I just remember the doctor telling me, he was like, "Yeah, no, you're done for the season." And I was just like, no, I'm not. You lock me away somewhere where I can just keep ice on it for 4 weeks and I'll be back in 4 weeks. I was clearly not. And then I tried to come back my senior year and my ankle was nowhere close to the same. I just wasn't the same player. And then that summer, my dad died. So I was 22 years old and lost my dad to a heart attack. And I was all messed up. And that is something that I look back on and I wish there'd been somebody there to help me through that more. Because, long story short, you're 22, your dad dies, your career's over. And that's when I started playing guitar and writing songs. So the only thing that really was there for me was music. And I wasn't very good at guitar. Didn't know a thing about writing songs. But I wrote my first song about my dad and I just kind of wrote from the heart. And that was obviously that was the toughest time of my life. That's when you start getting depressed and you don't even know it. And that fast forward, that was probably 2009, fast forward to moving to Nashville after that. And there's much more we're going to cover, but it didn't take me till about 2014 till I realized that I was depressed, and there's a long story behind that, but I was in bad shape. But it catches up to you. If you don't let it out, it'll catch up.
And you've leaned into doing some things to help other people with that. I know Heads Down, Eyes Up It's a personal mantra for you. What is heads down, eyes up? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I started that the year I was rehabbing at Carolina. I was looking in the mirror, my head was down, but my eyes were up. And I just caught myself looking in the mirror like that. And I just kind of looked pissed off, determined, whatever the word you want to use. And kind of like that lion mentality. So I kept saying that to myself. And it became a mentality of, man, you're not hearing anything good right now. Nothing good is happening in your life. And last year, all you heard was you were the best player in the world. It's all you hear is that you're so awesome. You're the next Brandon Spoon. He was one of the best linebackers ever at Carolina. And so forget about all that noise and even forget about the goal. The goal was to get back and play football, but forget about that. You're not just going to get back and play football. What can I do? Which is I can rehab today. I can do my upper body. I can get my ankle right. The small stuff that gets you to the goal. And that was really the mindset I had, which kept me going. And then I kept that mindset through losing my dad. And then when I moved to Nashville, I had that mindset even more on steroids, because then you start hearing all these labels telling you you're trash, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, you're never going to work, you're never going to play on radio. And that was when I kept that mindset even more. It's like, all right, I'll show y'all. And that was when I started focusing on writing the songs. And even that was 2010. That's taking me till now to really Head Down Eyes Up is a long-term play. It is a lifelong play for me. It's taking me till now to really figure out not just what I don't want to do, but what I do want to do with my music and my life. So that has helped me sustain all the trials and tribulations of the last, 15 years of my life.
The heads down, eyes up mindset, that athlete mindset at some level. And I know, drive, discipline, practice, tenacity, those 4 core values you talk about, right, with the brand. What helped you kind of unlock and refine that, if you will, your own drive, your own tenacity to take you through what you're describing as a pretty dark and scary place?
Yeah, and it's the cool part was, and I think a lot of people here growing up, and that is changing through sports, is toughen up, don't complain, yada yada, just be tough. It's like that's stupid advice to give to anybody. Be tough, but that doesn't mean anything to anybody. Because the coolest part was where it really started changing for me was you can keep that ferocious mentality, that head down, eyes up mentality, while also being vulnerable and opening up to a guy. I had a guy named Al Andrews, who my vocal coach, when I started losing my voice in 2013, she noticed that I was just quitting. And she didn't know me that well. So I guess she could just tell. She was like, I just feel like this isn't you. Like, I feel like you're not a quitter. And I need you to go see this guy. She wrote his name down on a Post-it note. And so I went and saw him. In the first 3 minutes of me talking, he just laughs. He literally looks like Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks mixed.
Okay. I got a good visual.
And he just laughs, throws his hands up. He's like, yeah, you're depressed. And I was just like, I got pissed. I was like, I'm not depressed. What is this jackass talking about?
Right.
And that was when my journey really began. And you can keep that mentality of head down, eyes up, keep going. It doesn't mean ignore the issues. It means focus more on the issues. And whatever those issues are, if it's a single rep, if it's getting your bench press better, or if it's going to a therapist and getting your mind right, getting your heart right, your soul. Like, I mean, if none of that's right, then there's no such thing as being tough, because you're going to crash at some point. And thank God I met Al Andrews. He's still one of my favorite people. He sat on my porch, 4 weeks ago, and we just sat there and talked and drank coffee. That was a huge part of my journey and it wasn't just Al. I went to rehab for 2 straight weeks. I went for 2 straight more. I started seeing a therapist in Nashville named KK Ray, who's a godsend. And that was huge for me in my life, to open up and not be so ashamed, not be so hard on myself, not be so whatever depressed. First of all, once you start letting that stuff out, the depression starts to slowly go away, because it can't hold you anymore. And that mentality of head down, eyes up stayed with me the entire time. And head down, eyes up, keep going. You're getting better. It's still with me. I mean, I still deal with a lot of that stuff day to day, but I actually wrote it on a hat.
I know. I love it. And I love the keep going, right? To me, what you're also saying, right, is keep going. I mean, we've all been through tough times, and you just got to keep going. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you say that you did, whether it was the therapist or the workouts or the another rep or It's just keep going, right?
Yeah, it's keep going, but don't ignore the issues. Don't just think that you can get it done. Don't just think that you can just show up and be awesome. You got to keep going. You got to keep grinding. You got to. Life is not easy, and that's what I'm 36 years old now. It's only getting harder. But luckily for me, I mean, last year, shit, we got my life was ripped away from me, like a lot of people's were, through not being able to tour, not being able to pay for bills, not being able to pay for my 16 employees. If you don't have hills to climb or mountains to climb in your life, it's not really a life that I'm very interested in, because I think that just sharpens you so much. And by the time you get to the end of the mountain, you're like, oh man, I am a whole different person in the best way. But yeah, I wrote that on a hat in Indianapolis, Indiana. I think it was like 2013 or something. And that's when it was a mentality. But these guys asked me after the show. This is when I was just starting and going to merch and talking to fans after shows, and the 6 fans that I had. But and then I went to Lids because they asked me. They said, "Where's that hat, man? We want that." I was like, "Huh, maybe this is a way I can
Sure.
make some money, because I'm pretty broke."
Right, right, and spread the good word that you're.
See, that wasn't even my first mentality. More at the beginning, it
I
was
need
like,
some
"No, I just need
coin.
some cash." So I went to Lids and made 20 hats, and they sold out the very first show I ever did. So that's when I started making the hats. It's just a reminder. And that's when it turned into, man, I can really spread a message here, which I've talked a lot with Tim Tebow this past year, and which was a huge blessing for me. And I've actually started, now we're going to start the Head Down Eyes Up Foundation, which is going to be even more. Like, I mean, adults need this mentality. Adults need that reminder every day, but kids are where my heart is. And so we're going to make some smaller hats. So eventually here later this year, next year, we got the foundation rolling, and there's going to be a certain amount of hats that we're going to be able to send to these kids that lose their hair through treatments. And then we're going to raise money through the foundation and be able to hopefully pay for some treatments for some kids out there that are going through hell.
I got to rewind the tape for a second. We've had Jimmy Johnson on the show, and Jimmy, I know you did some pit crew work for, and then NASCAR gets interrupted by an opportunity for you to go on TV on the Survivor series, right? I mean, you don't really strike me as sort of a big reality TV kind of guy. So how did that happen? And then you finished second, which was pretty cool.
I feel like I finished second a lot in my life, which is so frustrating, man. But I was pretty awful at that game. I'm not a reality TV guy. You're right about that. But the cool thing about, there's 2 shows that I do respect. It's Survivor and Amazing Race, because there's an actual competition. Like, if you're just showing people's lives, well, who cares? But the competition aspect was something that I was very good at. The lying and the deceiving and all that, I was awful at. I would just tell people what was happening, and the producers hated me for that. I graduated from Carolina, just to give the timeline. In 2009, 2010, I went and worked at Hendrick Motorsports. That was a cool opportunity through Chris Berkey, who had been hired to go see if you could, get a bunch of college athletes together and see if they could be faster on the pit crew. So I was part of the first ever group at Hendrick Motorsports that did that. And then within 6 months, half of us were up on the cup teams or the nationwide teams. And we were, won a championship and a half, because with Jimmy Johnson, 2010, 2011. And then halfway through 11, I left because I got the call to do Survivor, and they wanted the country guy, whatever. And I had no idea about reality TV. I didn't know about Survivor. Okay. And I literally, my response to the text from the girl I went to college with was I said, sure, why not? And then I went through the process. I half-assed that whole thing because I didn't care. And then when it started getting closer in 2010 to actually possibly getting on the show, I was like, man, you can win $1 million for this thing? Then that gives me money to move to Nashville, because I was still writing songs at that point, right out of college. And then I actually got in a fight outside of Martinsville Speedway with one of our own crew members. And so I got suspended for 2 weeks in 2010, went to Nashville. And that was the first time I'd ever visited Nashville. And it was just like, man, this is what I want to do. So when Survivor really came knocking in there, I found out I was on. It was a huge blessing in disguise, because when I got back from Survivor, I'd lost 38 pounds. So I couldn't physically do the NASCAR job. So the same thing, I went and visited Brian Kelly from Florida Georgia Line, who was a childhood friend. This is before they were Florida Georgia Line, and visited him in Nashville, and they had a room available in their house. So 2010, I packed up my stuff and moved to Nashville, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So I've had a very weird life.
You've had, well, it's been eclectic. There's no doubt, right? But you've clearly learned to trust your instincts, right? To trust your intuition, to take risks, and to go for it. Where do you think that drive at some level that comes from inside of you?
For me, it's God. My dad was, people talk about God a lot, and who really knows what that means. But my dad he believed in Jesus, and that was his whole purpose in life later in life. And the reason I love that so much because I knew my dad and heard stories and who he was before that. And he wasn't the best of guys. And his dad wasn't the best of guys. And the coolest part was what I learned was those are the guys that Jesus wanted to hang out with, which always made me feel like, okay, well, if he wanted to hang out with my dad, that's the guy that I can get down with.
Mm-hmm.
And so the closer I got to God, the closer I started believing, okay, Jesus is a real part of my life. And it was when I started really trusting, like you said, my gut. I remember being on Survivor, like the first vote we had to go through to vote somebody off. I was the swing vote, and I was going one way, and then I'm sitting there backstage or whatever they call it, about to go on, and I just had this thing come over me like, nope, I can't vote for her to be off. I got to vote for him. I have to. This is what I have to do. So when I feel something in my heart, I go with it. And the coolest part about that is even if it's wrong, you really didn't have another choice. Because if you know so much about why and you feel so strongly about why you have to do something, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You at least learned a lesson. You at least take something from that, because if you know it in your heart and you don't go with it, then I don't know. That's just not something I've ever wanted to do. If I know in my heart that I have to do it, then I really have no other choice. That's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. Is that where your resilience comes from? I mean, you're incredibly resilient too. I mean, is that where that comes from? Do you think too? That same place that drive comes from at some level?
Yeah, I mean, if I make that decision, if I make that commitment, I'm going that way, and I feel so strongly in my heart, whatever it is, then I'm going to see it through. That's football, and I learned a lot of that through football because I would say a little bit undersized, a little bit slower than the rest, and I wasn't slow by any means. I ran 4.5 out of high school, but I was never the most talented guy on the field. And I've never been the most talented songwriter. I've never been the most talented singer, but I'm going to outwork you.
Yeah. You're going to compensate that through your drive. Does that athlete mindset, does that help you in your world now as a musician, as a songwriter?
I think it hurts in one way because I didn't realize that in the music industry, it's a lot more of a sensitive world, if that makes sense. You can't just bulldoze through people and expect to get to the top. Right. There's more politics involved. And I think that's more also most things outside of sports as you get older and get into the real world and start working. There's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of swagger that some people that may not deserve it get it because they're just that good at persuading people or whatever it is. And I wasn't ever good at that. I was more just like, I don't get this.
Yeah.
Why is this song playing on the radio? It's
mine's
trash.
Better. Right.
And mine's not. And maybe the radio just liked that person more, or they played the game better. I'm very bad about that, but it has helped me stick to who I am. Like I said, there's a lot of politics in my world now, and I don't play them. I'm not going to do that. To me, I truly believe this. If I focus on the music, if I focus on making the best songs I can with the best producer right now, which my next record is going to be with my dream producer, Jay Joyce. And all this has led to, from 2010 to me not having a clue what I was doing in music, to now writing songs on a guitar again, forgetting about the poppier stuff that I've done in the past, which had huge success, but that's not what I want to do. I want to go back to who I truly am. I want to do it with a producer I've wanted to work with for 10 years named Jay Joyce. And we're doing it. I'm writing songs on a guitar. I sing them to my phone. I send them to Jay. And I think that is a long-term play that's going to be undeniable. And the music's finally going to be there for the first time in my career. So if I've had this success with stuff that I really wasn't even me and really didn't even truly want to do, I was just doing it because I wasn't sure what's going to happen now.
Yeah, for sure. No question. Boy, that's one lucky phone, man, having you sing into it. And that's good stuff. How have you balanced, what sells and what you want to put into the world, right? Like how, or am I hearing you say, I do what I want to put out of the world, and if it sells, awesome. If it doesn't, awesome. I'm writing what I want to write and what's on my heart. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we were just talking about, a few minutes ago, which was I don't have a choice. Like I can't do something else right now. I can't go back and do, I have a song, Ready, Set, Roll. I have Eyes on You. Those are huge songs, but they're more pop leaning and it's more pop production. And it wasn't me not doing what I wanted to do. It was me not having a clue what I wanted to do.
Got it. Okay.
And now I know what I want to do. So if I don't do it, then I'm lying to myself. And if I'm lying to myself, there's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to go up on stage and sing these songs with any sort of conviction. So this next record that I'm doing is like, it's not an option for me. I don't have the choice. The choice is made. I've already made it. Let's go. So I'm real excited about this one. For the first time in my life, I'm excited to piece together a full record. I've produced them myself. I've had other producers help me, but this is the first time I'm handing over the reins on that. To me, one of the best producers of all time. And he's going to take it and we're going to take it together and make it sound how we want it to sound, which is, that's what I'm saying. I can't back away from that. That's going to be, if it doesn't work, then I can't say I don't care, but I have to do it anyway.
You broke through at some level when you penned, Cruise, right, with Florida Georgia Line. I know you're close to these guys, and it's been awesome. Was that what kind of helped you come out of what I know was kind of a tough place? Did that sort of unlock and create a little bit of momentum for you?
It created momentum in my music world for sure. And that was written in 2011. It was released in 2012. And then sometime around 2012, 2013, I was working on Ready, Set, Roll, which became my first big hit. And then right around the same time, I literally wrote in my journal, I no longer want to be alive. Like, so the answer to that is no.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But it led me to that point, which was what led me to, thank God, Jenny Muckala at Vanderbilt. She noticed that I was feeling that way and sent me to Al. And that's when my real journey started of at least getting my heart right. So yeah, that was around 2013. And a lot of it too was my mom. She wrote me a letter, calling me out on this stuff. She could tell that I was all messed up when I visited Christmas in 2013. I was having the most success you could ever ask for as a young writer, as a young artist. But if I would have continued to have that success and continued to, a few years later, I had another hit, and then my Sony. This really didn't have a whole lot to do with me. The whole group at Sony, who was my label at the time, all got fired. So a new regime came in around 2015, 16, and thank God, because I left that label. Not thank God because they're not good people. Like Sony's killing it now; they're great. But I left the label, and it really made me start going down the road that I'm going down with my music now, which is it all fell apart there, and that sent me down the path that I'm on now with Broken Bow and a label that really didn't just allow me to do what I want. They pushed me to like,
oh, that's
hey
awesome.
man,
yeah,
we signed you for a reason. Just do what you want to do, and we're here to support it either way.
I would imagine it's hard to find the right fit, right, with a label. I mean, as a sports agent, it was the same thing we navigated with athletes, right? Finding the right fit, the right team, the right teammates, the right manager, the right market, all that kind of stuff. What's it like navigating that process, right? And then locking into to the right label that what a blessing. I mean, they're saying, Chase, be you.
Yeah.
That's what we want most. We're not trying to turn you into something you're not. That's awesome. What's that like though?
It's I mean, you've seen it with athletes, but I mean, when the old regime at Carolina was coaching, I was an okay player. When Butch Davis and Chuck Pagano come in, I become an unbelievable player. I was doing stuff. I was like, what the hell? Where'd that come from?
Right.
I didn't know I was that good.
Did I just make that play?
Yeah. I was like, whoa, man, I look like a real NFL linebacker right there. And same thing with music. It was Sony regime was awesome for me. They were letting me do my thing, and they were killing it at radio, killing it all around. They all got fired. New regime comes in. For example, like I remember golfing with the head of promotions at Sony, who, funny enough, him and I are friends now. It like took us not working together to become friends.
That's cool.
But I talked about my record. I was like, here's the first 6 songs. I like them. back half of the record. Here's 6 more, rework them, whatever. And his response was, he just said, yeah, yeah. And that's all he said. And I looked at him in the golf cart and I was just like, I sent my manager a text immediately. I was like, man, I'm out. Get me out of this record deal. They do not care. And there was no hesitation. It was like, I have no plan, but I do not want to be here no more. So that's the example of,
you knew it wasn't the right.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't right.
Right.
So that was my transfer, if you will. And then Broken Bow came in and there was no question. Like they came to a show, they were passionate. And to John Loba's credit, who's the head of Broken Bow Records, it's a smaller label. That Jason Aldean is kind of their first artist that really succeeded, and he's their biggest artist now. Hopefully I'll be able to catch up to him here soon. But it's been amazing. He literally on singles to radio, he talks to me. He's like, man, you make the call. It's your decision. I trust you no matter what you do. Let's go. It's trusting. And for me, the best part is they're doing their jobs as a label. They're allowing me to make some decisions here and there that I feel strongly about. But I'm also getting to go in with Jay, who it's almost like they're the head coach up there. They're doing all this stuff, recruiting and all that, while I'm down in the trenches with my position coach, who's Jay Joyce. That's an example I can give. And Jay and I are in there grinding every single day, trying to make this record sound the best way we can. And then we bring it to the label and say, all right, here's your record. Let's go.
In just a minute, we'll get back to the conversation. But first, I want to share a free resource for you. Through this podcast, I've had the opportunity to connect with more than 100 leaders, championship coaches, elite athletes, business leaders, and thought leaders. I've learned so many valuable insights from these conversations that I decided to distill it down into 7 mindset shifts that can help you reimagine your role as a leader. You'll also get a playbook with exercises to help you put these principles into action. To get your free playbook, just go to mollyfletcher.com/mindset shifts. Again, that's mollyfletcher.com/mindset shifts. Now back to the show. A question for you. Obviously, the entertainment world came to a bit of a standstill, right, during the pandemic, during COVID, which obviously creates a huge void for someone like you, who's you're always out on tour. Tell me a little bit about that window of time for you, during that downtime, how you navigated that, given some of the challenges maybe you've had in the past, you got out of your rhythm, anything you've taken from that moving forward.
Yeah, I'll look back and I think it'll be one of the most pivotal points in my entire life. And I had no idea when it was happening.
Wow.
But first few months, I'm pissed off at the world. Like, why can't we tour? I did a show. I got in trouble for that. Why can't I tour? I'm just trying to keep guys employed. I wasn't making money. I was literally just trying to keep my band and crew employed. And I did for 6 or 7 months, which was brutal financially, but it was the right thing to do. So once I finally let go of after 3 or 4 months of, okay, wow, this is really not coming back anytime soon. That was when I started hanging out. James Neal, Ryan Johansson. Ryan's still with the Predators. James Neal just signed with the St. Louis Blues. They were 2 good buddies in Nashville. They were friends in Nashville that became really good buddies. These 3 military families that they were all our age. They're married. They had their kids. We all just started hanging out together. We started partying together. We started having dinner nights, family nights is what we called them. And we had the Beer Olympics, we had our 2nd annual this year. But we did fun stuff where I stopped doing music. I stopped writing songs and I started living in a way that you never expect. You take a year off of music, you think you're going to be you're traveling, you're going to sporting events, which none of that was happening last year. So we were all stuck in Nashville and had the absolute best year of our lives. And all of us say that. It's so funny when we're all talking, hanging out still. We try to still get together at least once a month or once every couple of weeks and have family dinner because we don't want to let that go. It was good for our mental health. It was good to step away from, and for me especially, to step away from music. Like, wow, there is life outside of a tour bus. And when I started living that, January or really December rolled around. I wrote my first song December 2nd. last year. And that was, I never go that long without writing songs. I never go that long without doing music, but I didn't do any of it. And I wrote this song called If I Were Rock and Roll, inspired by the Springsteen documentary that I was watching, and wrote it by myself on a guitar, which I haven't done that in 8 or 9 years. So it allowed me to step back and be like, I've lived life again. I finally have something to write about. I'm happy. I'm not a slave to the work anymore. I'm actually doing it because I love it. And I'm bringing that into this year. Had a weekend of shows a few months ago that they weren't booked up yet. And I told my agent manager, like, yo, I'm going to take that weekend off. I want to do this stuff with my friends. We're doing some stuff in Nashville. Another example, I had a show in LA, and my brother's birthday, or 40th birthday, was in Nashville, and they were all partying at my house, and I missed 2 or 3 days of that. So I was like, man, forget this. I'm getting a jet and I'm flying home. Now, I know it's a lot of money, but I got to be there for my brother's 40th birthday. And so stuff like that has allowed me to realize, there's a lot of stuff. And the more I realize there's a lot of more important stuff outside of music, the better the music gets. Which is awesome. It's a win-win.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I think there is, and I talk about this, that such a difference between achievement and fulfillment, right? I mean, you had achieved a lot with Cruise, but you weren't fulfilled, right? And we got to find that alignment and being there for your brother. I mean, that's a moment that mattered most. That's huge. Where does that inspiration come from for songs, and what is your writing process? I mean, I think it's a magical thing and a gift. I mean, you tell a story in 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes. I mean, it's insane. To me, it's such a gift. How do you do it? I mean, really, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a picture painted in my head for sure. And the hard part is getting that picture to come out, with a cool melody, with lyrics that make sense and that rhyme.
Right.
So it's a challenge for sure. You could write a song all day that doesn't rhyme. That'd be easy, but you got to make it sound good.
Right.
But for example, there's a song called Bench Seat that's going on my next record. And that started in the back. This is another thing that would have never happened without last year happening the way it did. I'm on my back porch with my college roommate who was played in the NFL for 10 years. And, prior to that, 4 years early, he was extremely depressed. He'd visited me in Nashville. He was seeing KK, my therapist. And he was to the point where suicide wasn't too far off. KK helped him through that. I told him, I flipped the light on his room and talked to him for a little while. And all right, let's go. I'm in it. I'm in it with you, dude. And then fast forward to last year, he's much better. And we're sitting on my back patio around a fire, just hanging out talking. And he's like, dude, I got an idea where you should write a song about a guy in his truck with his dog. And I just started laughing. I'm like, well, that's been done 1 billion times before.
Sure.
But then we start talking even more, and it's like, all right, well, what if we write it from the dog's perspective? But you don't know it's from the dog's perspective to the very end of the song.
How many beers in are you at this point? I'm just kind of curious.
Oh, at least 10.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're saying all sorts of stuff that in the grand scheme of things makes 0 sense.
Sure. Okay. The dog's perspective.
Yeah. And then 3 days later, I texted him and I was like, dude, I wrote it, and it's not at all what you're going to expect. And it is exactly what we said, but it's in a way that makes perfect sense. It tells the story in a perfect way. And the funny part about that one is I had the music video in my head the entire time I was writing it. I was like, I have to follow this story, whatever. I don't know how this is in my head. I don't know why it's in my head, but it is. I'm going with it. And so I'm not going to release that song until the music video is done, because I don't want people guessing what it's about. I want them to see exactly what I had in my head. So that's an even more challenge. You got the song, get the production right, and we got to get the video right. So it's all got to come together. And now I'm sitting here. My black lab is sitting on my, it was getting a big stretch, buddy. I didn't have a dog before. I've never had a dog in my life. So
the song inspired you to go grab a dog?
Yeah. I was like, if I'm going to do this video, it's going to be my dog in the video. So
that's awesome, man. And
he's been a huge, I didn't have responsibility. I lived by myself. I was 35 and had a farm. I was loving life. And now Had to wake up at 7 a.m. because Jack had an accident inside the bus. So
your songwriting process at some level is living life, and these moments bubble up, and then obviously you have a gift to be able to put a bow on it.
yeah, and I think that probably comes from, I think naturally, some people are just born more creative in their minds for whatever reason. I've kind of always had that. I've always had a wild imagination. And I journaled from the time I was 15 years old. That's helped me just kind of say it. My Brad Bucklight is another huge man in my life. He told me when I was 15, he said, there's no rules, just write a page. Just fill the page up. That's all you got to do. So I've been doing that since I was 15 years old. And yeah, that helps me to go into those places of like, just there's a spot in my mind where I can go and it comes out. If I Were Rock and Roll it's the next single. And I wrote that one night watching the Springsteen documentary, and it was more just, I just wanted to put in all these things that were a huge influence in my life, from Dale Earnhardt to my grandpa, to The Girl That Got Away, to Johnny Cash. All these different examples I fit in, somehow squeezed in 3 minutes.
That's unbelievable. And then you're touring with Kane Brown in 2022, right?
Yeah, that's a funny one for me because it's cool to see guys that I've known for 10 years we're still here. In this next generation of artists, I grew up watching Garth and George Strait and then Luke Bryan, Eric Church, Dirk Bentley, those guys, Aldean take off. And now the next guys are up. And Kane I've known for a long time, and we start in January. I think the first half of that tour is with Jordan Davis, who's another guy I love. So yeah, it's awesome to me to see the success Kane's had, and we'll be right there with him. And those will be, Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden. We're doing it for real.
How do you navigate? You with the fame and the fans and the pressure that comes with that, and a life that at some level is public, because you seem like a really grounded dude. And so I would imagine, and you're real. How do you navigate that?
There's a book called The Blue Book, written by Jim Branch. And Brad, my buddy I just mentioned, gave it to me years ago. And I try to read that every morning. And it's not just reading that. You read a little bit, a couple paragraphs. And then for me, it's more about just spending time with God. I try to sit there on my front porch and I have a farm in Tennessee, which has been huge for me, because I get away from the noise. And I still have brothers that all I am to them is their little brother. And I have friends that Garrett, like I was just talking about my buddy from college and Connor, and those guys are still they even say it to me. They're like, yeah, you're the same dude that we've always known. And that's a huge compliment to me and I have to be with them. Like if I wasn't, they'd slap me in the face or they wouldn't hang out with me anymore. So I think you just keep people real in your life, and then, take those moments I try to do it once a day to where I'm just at least an hour on the front porch and spending my time with God, listening, talking, whatever it is, and just hands open and take whatever that day brings you.
Drinking beer, talking God, amen. That's what I'm hearing you say.
I did a lot of that last year.
I love it. Hey, we end with rapid fire, so I'm going to hit you with some quick ones and you tell me what comes up. Sound good?
Perfect.
All right. What was your first job?
Cutting grass on my dad's Kubota tractor in Florida. But that wasn't even a job. I was just fired up to do it. Like, oh, I get to cut the grass today? Heck yeah, Dad.
What's something you wish you knew earlier in your career?
Yeah, to do what I want to do from the artist side. Step outside of that as a writer and try different things. But when it comes to an artist, don't waver at all from what you really want to do.
What's your favorite song you've ever performed?
Probably Jack Daniels and Jesus. And it was at the Grand Ole Opry, the first time I'd ever played the Grand Ole Opry.
That's unbelievable. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a special moment.
What's your favorite song you've ever written?
Oh, that's another one between Jack Daniels and Jesus or Carolina Can.
Yeah, okay.
Carolina Can's pretty special. That one paints a perfect picture of my life.
Awesome. What's your most memorable career moment so far?
February 22nd last year was probably up there with the best, and it was at Ford Field in Detroit, and I was opening for Garth Brooks.
70,000.
Yeah, 70,000+, and it's Garth. It's my childhood first concert. It's my hero, and I'm not only playing with him.
Opening for him.
I'm opening for him. I hung out all day with him and got to know him a little bit. He's a great guy.
Sure. That's awesome. Who's an artist you most want to collaborate with that you haven't yet?
I would love to do one. I mean, they're all over the place, but I'd love to do one with Chesney. I think Kenny Chesney or Eric Church. I love those guys. I was with Eric last week, and we have the same producer now. If we could get one with all three of us, now we're talking. So Chesney and Church, let's go.
All right, let's go. What songs are on your playlist?
I'm far away from anything real big mainstream right now because it's too close to what I do, I think. But I love Flatland Cavalry. They're I don't even know what you call it, but they're awesome. 49 Winchester. I like them. It's stuff that you'd really, if you were cruising down an open highway in Montana, roll the windows down, that's what you'd want to hear.
That's awesome. So fill this in. Success is, fill in the blank there. What's success to you? Success is what?
To me, success would be taking whatever is in your mind and whatever your heart truly says, man, I have to do that. I have to do that. And doing it at the best level that you can possibly do that, whatever it is. Because, I mean, you can play to arenas, you can play to 50 people, but if you're doing it the best that you can possibly do it, and it's a true dream in your heart, that's it. And I don't even know if that sounds like a cliche answer or not, but that's how I've lived my life. I wrote down on a piece of paper when I was in college, they said, where do you see yourself in 15 years? And I wrote down, I want to play in the NFL. And that didn't happen. But then fast forward a few years later, I also wrote, the next thing I wrote was I want to chase a crazy dream that's not even a realistic dream of being a country music singer. And then I want to have a family. So really fast forward, I've done two of those. Didn't play in the NFL as a football player, but I've played in a lot of NFL stadiums to 70,000 people.
It's unbelievable, man.
So, and this country music same thing is obviously happening. And then the family's to be decided.
So the show's called Game Changers. Who's a game changer, or what game changer inspires you and why?
Number one in my whole life has been my dad. He didn't waver in who he was ever. And that taught me that. And so he'd be number one. In my world right now, a true game changer, literally affecting my everyday life, is Jay Joyce. He's the producer I'm working with. He's the guy that's going to help me make all my dreams of what I want to do the last 10 years come true with this next record. So,
oh, that's awesome. Amen.
That's the easy answer now. And then the overall is definitely my dad.
Hey, Chase, thanks for taking a minute. This is good stuff. I mean, you're going to inspire some people to stay true to who they are. That's what it's all about. Love it.
Absolutely. And I got to throw a game changer. I'm also my dog, Jack. My dog, Jack, he's changed my life for sure. He's a handful.
Hey, it's a good stepping stone to babies, man. I mean, it's just kind of a good warm up drill.
I don't think anybody should be allowed to have babies unless they have a puppy first. My God, it is good training.
Exactly. Well, Jack sounds like a good dude, man, and he's probably loving that farm, no doubt about it.
He's a good dog for sure.
Here are a few of my favorite takeaways from my conversation with Chase. Number one, I love this. Head down, eyes up. Chase's personal mantra is one that I love, right? He talks about don't focus so much on the end result. Focus on the moment in front of you. It's the little moments in our lives that can lead to big outcomes. Number two, it's not talent, it's drive. One of the things I learned working with athletes is that it's not about talent, it's about drive. Chase clearly still has the athlete mindset he embraced as a college football player. Talent might get you there, but drive will keep you there. I love that. Number three, enjoy the climb. Like most of us, Chase has experienced more than a few obstacles on his journey. I loved how he talked about how the hills in life are what make it worth it. So buckle up and enjoy the climb. Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Check it out. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.